Geometry Dash is one of the most developed games out there, and more importantly, it has one of the most advanced level creation system. No, seriously, this game is like a game engine. However, it wasn't always like this, and it wouldn't be anywhere where it is today if it wasn't for this one update. Prior to this update's release, there was a series of 8 major updates. Each brought something completely new to the table. I'm not going to go over each of these updates since that would take way too much time, and I'm not here to do that. But either way, these updates brought a ton of essential features to the game. But the most essential feature had always existed in the game since day one: the level editor. This allowed users to create a level, but this editor wasn't as complicated as it was today. Like, not even in the slightest. Back then, this game was simple and all you had were a few basic blocks to work with. And the best that you could create was a basic layout using one of the songs that the game developer had already implemented into the game already. But if you thought that you could at least playtest your levels, well, you thought wrong, because that wasn't a thing until update 1.8, which was released in mid-2014. But the game was simple, and you could easily learn how to create decent looking levels pretty quickly. But things weren't going to be like that forever, because a new update was due to drop. And it took a few months, but on November 9th, 2014, we got the most important update in the game's history. You could make the argument that the more advanced updates like 2.1 or 2.2 were more essential to the game, but those updates wouldn't even be as great as they were without the existence of this update. This update 1.9 introduced a few basic changes like the copy and paste button, which I use when making levels all the time. And so does most of the awarded tab levels too. The object limit was raised to 15,000 objects, which now allows for more creative freedom. In a future update in 1.9, they actually raised that to 20,000 objects. Importantly, you can now load a song from the audio sharing website known as Newgrounds to your level, allowing for some creativity in levels, because prior to this, you can only use songs that have been already approved by the game developer. Also, players now had access to 4 different color channels, which doesn't sound like a lot, considering that nowadays we have access to a bit under 10,000. But prior to this, the game only had 1 color channel. This allowed for a ton more creative freedom, since now people were limited to 4 color channels instead of just 1. And the server was upgraded to support more people in the game, as prior to this update, the simple mobile game only had a small niche community. However, this update would expand the player base by a lot. And this part of the update was easily the most important out of them all. And it was the reason why we have extreme demons as hard as Tidal Wave or even Nullscapes. Steam is one of the biggest apps for downloading games onto your computer, and prior to 1.9, Geometry Dash was only a mobile game, which meant that if you had a copy on your computer, then it most likely would be the death of your PC. But in all seriousness though, this was massive. PCs had a higher refresh rates. If for whatever reason you don't know, a refresh rate is how many times per second an image appears, which is measured in hertz, or simply referred to as Hz. Most phones have a refresh rate at or below 60 Hz. At the time, probably less than that. And most monitors have at least 60 Hz. In fact, some monitors have a refresh rate of 480 Hz. Although they are extremely expensive, which I'm not dropping a whole band on that, like, no thank you. But this also allows for a much smoother playing experience. I switched from playing on my 60 Hz smartphone to my 144 Hz computer in May of 2023, and I felt the change clearly, and that is the reason why I was able to complete so many demon difficulty levels in such a short period of time. Well, obviously now I don't really play that much because I have other stuff to do, but I'm trying to get back into the game, you know? The newfound success of the game allowed it to reach a bigger audience than ever before, and since more people were saying positive things about the game, more people were inclined to purchase it, or at least get the light version of the game, which is the free version for those that somehow don't know. At the time, one of the most influential players of all time was rising quickly, completing extremely hard levels such as Ice Carbon Diablo X and Cataclysm, and his name was Riot. He was the verifier of the critically acclaimed extreme demon known as Bloodbath, which is argued to be the single most influential extreme demon. Without Riot, we wouldn't have the top players that we know and love today, such as Zoink, Enswish, Technical, or Trick, or any other extremely talented players that are up there on the lists. Bloodbath reigned as the #1 demon all all the way through 2015 and even into a portion of 2016, until numerous other quote-unquote top 1 demons came into the picture, such as Phobos and Zakup in Hell. And this level was so hard that it remained in the top 150 until late January of 2021. That was only 3 years ago. And the level has fallen off very quickly since, obviously, because, you know, we're getting better at this. Eventually, in 2015, Update 2.0 was finally released, which concluded what many people call the golden age of the game. So many incredible advancements were made during the duration of this update, and if it wasn't as big as it was, I bet you most of you watching this video wouldn't even be watching it right now. In summary, this update helped build a strong community filled with players who want to push the boundaries of what is possible in this game, either through creating levels that are incredibly boundary pushing, or just through pure difficulty, like trying to push the #1 spot on the demon list. And to this day, many people who played the game during this time are still active in playing, although many of the biggest creators we looked up to at the time aren't. So I think the update was essential to the game's development. But also, if you enjoyed, don't forget to click the video on the center of the screen right now, which answers the question, is Geometry Dash the hardest game? Anyways, I am out, and I'll be seeing you guys next Tuesday.